What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. AJ here from AJ's Corner MMA. There's just a quick little video I wanted to do about the straight up blasphemy that I've just been hearing non-stop about. Oh, the greatest of all time. I know the featherweight division is young. There's only been 4 champions, don't include the interim. There's only been 4 champions in featherweight history. You've had the Aldo, Connor, Holloway, and now Volk. So it's a short history we've got. But and whoever the latest champion is, I get it. The UFC, they're company men's, they're shills, people like DC and that. I like listening to him, but he's a straight up shill. There's no denying it. They know what side their bread's buttered on. And they'll just say whoever's flavour of the month. I mean, if Diego Lopez had won and knocked him out in the first round, they'd be saying, oh, he's the greatest featherweight of all time. He's just beating the greatest. You know what I mean? It's a load of rubbish. Volk, yeah, he's done good getting the belt back. I appreciate it. But you've seen in the fight, there's levels to this. Lopez had a shot one, very nervous, very wary of his chin. Volk, you could tell Volk was worried about getting hit, and he couldn't do anything. I mean, Ilya just savaged him to different levels. I just got a little thing here. I just wanted to quickly go through Aldo's record because I think people just seem to forget. It's like the older something gets, the less people seem to, other than Muhammad Ali, the older something gets, the less people seem to think they're the GOAT, or the less their achievements become, almost. So let's have a look at this. He had a title eliminator to get his title shot, yeah? A title eliminator in WEC against Cub Swanson, who was red hot and young at the time. Dangerous fighter. He knocked him out in 8 seconds. I had Cub diving on the floor like bombs were dropping on him. Embarrassed him, you know what I mean? 8 seconds. Then he fights Mike Brown. People don't realize Mike Brown, the American top team coach, was an absolute savage of a fighter. Knocked out Uriah Faber brutally. He was to win the belt, he was a brutal fighter and a really good fighter. Because he's quiet, people just think of him as a coach. Man, that guy was so good, it's not even funny. So he beats Mike Brown. Then he defends the belt against the title shot kid. Oh, sorry, I mean the California kid, Uriah Faber. He is the title shot kid, though, isn't he? And then he defends it against Manny Gamburian, also another great fighter. These are 4 great fighters, including Swanson, in a row he's beat, and 3 in title fights. So Manny Gamburian, a very good grappler, very good fighter. Then they promote him to UFC champion. He defends the belt against Mark Hominick. Mark Hominick was on fire at the time. A very good fighter. Very good fighter. He beat him decisively. I mean, he was gassing to the end. I always remember people saying he was gassing towards the end of that fight because everyone used to bang on about, oh, he's such a huge featherweight. And I always thought, what are you talking about? The guy's like 5'1", 4'11". You know, the guy's not a massive featherweight. And then all these years later, look, he went down to bantamweight. He's such a big featherweight. No, he's not. He's just a normal featherweight-sized featherweight. What do you want about? It's like when they go on about Vittoria having his massive power. No, he doesn't have massive power. If anything, he has 0 power. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Then he beats a man who's fought a middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, and then featherweight in Kenny Florian, who fought BJ Penn for the title. Beat Kenny Florian. Kenny Florian was a really good fighter. People forget Ken Flo. He was one of those guys that had really good jiu-jitsu and really good striking all at the same time. He was just a really good, well-rounded fighter. Vicious fight against Lozon he had with his elbows. Great fighter. Then he fought Chad Mendes. One of the best KOs you will ever see. Where Chad Mendes, he's trying to break the hands, and he just spins round and just knees him. It was just... I think Mighty Mouse had sort of a similar one against Benavidez. I think. Am I imagining that? Either way, it was one of the craziest KOs you ever see. And that was when Aldo truly became a massive breakout star for his own country anyway. Because he just jumped, ran over the cage and just ran and dived into the crowd. It was crazy. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It was crazy to watch, crazy to see. And that was an insane KO. Then he beat one of the greatest lightweights. Who just people forget about Frankie. Frankie's one of the greatest lightweights ever, especially because of purely his size and his toughness and his grit. Frankie is personified what UFC used to be, with just tough, gritty wars. But you don't see that anymore. But anyway, Frankie Edgar just defended against him, the former lightweight champion, and Frankie made featherweight easy, so there's no excuses there. And he beat Frankie pillar to post. Korean Zombie beat him. Alright, I'll give you that. His shoulder came out. He started kicking his shoulder. That was the one time, the first fight, where I thought Aldo could be in trouble here. Aldo could, and I would have loved to have. I wish that never happened because we could have seen that fight play out properly. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe I wouldn't be making this video. But So the Korean Zombie fight, it is what it is. It couldn't continue, so the fight was over. Ricardo Lamas, he was on a good he was on a good streak at the time. Lamas, you know, he was a legit #1 contender. Excuse me. And he dealt with him. As Conor McGregor said, you fought for the title, you got a title shot, and you fought like a bitch. And then Chad Mendes, man, this was the beginning and the end. The Chad Mendes fight, the rematch, that it might be the greatest featherweight fight of all time. Without a doubt, it's the greatest featherweight title fight of all time, still to this day. It was an absolute war. They went back and forth. They beat the crap out of each other. It was a razor close fight, in my opinion. Aldo looked like he'd had a stroke at the end of it. I remember McGregor joking, but I remember thinking he actually did look like he'd had a stroke at the end of that fight. He poured his heart and soul out into that fight to keep that belt. And then I think this is where the clever matchmaking came in. They're like, let's quickly put McGregor in with him as soon as possible, because with his power and after a war like that, now is the perfect time to test that chin. And of course, they were right, and you know, we know what happened after that. And then obviously, you know, he did lose after that to Conor, but then he had Edgar, which was an interim title fight, upgraded to a title, so it was kind of a weird one, but still, 2-time champion. I mean, that is just a crazy run, and it was over a long period of time, that as well, a really crazy run. And then we got Volk's record. He beat an old Aldo and an old Mendes. Those are just the facts. Not me saying it, these are the facts. Old and shot-born and being beaten and knocked out by McGregor. And he didn't finish Aldo either. It was a pretty lackluster fight, that, in Brazil. I mean, it was a weird fight for Aldo too. I don't really know what was going on there. That was the fight that made Aldo leave the division too. And then, in my opinion, he lost to Max, and then he lost to Max again. Do you know what I mean? The third fight with Max, I'll admit, it was depressing. He whooped that ass. But in my opinion, he didn't win the title, and then he would have been fighting Ortega and Zombie as non-title fights. But let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. He won the title of Max, defended the title against Max, defended against Ortega, almost got submitted. I mean, I don't know how we got out of that. It's kind of fair play to him for getting out of it, but still, he got put in it. Zombie defeated. Zombie was, you know, seen better days. Holloway, his first legit win over Holloway, he won that. Then he had a good loss against Islam, which, I mean, maybe we overrated his performance because we didn't expect that much, and the wrestling exchanges were so impressive, and how cocky he was in that fight when he's like, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Kind of like Sarah against Hughes back in the day when he's like looking at his watch and that because Hughes wasn't doing any damage. But that was a good loss, you know. And then he had a great win against Yaya. That, for me personally, that was his best performance I've ever seen against Yaya. The way he went from striking to takedowns and he's all seamlessly, and he just sewed it all together so perfectly, was just amazing. Then obviously the Islam loss, which I let him off with that because he looked like a bag of potatoes. If you look at the shape of him this Saturday compared to then, totally different. And then the Ilya loss, and now he's won against Diego, which is kind of like Aldo's win against Edgar, in a way. Diego, 2-time champ. So, in my opinion, I mean, would Holloway still have had the belt? But I don't really feel that he won those first 2 fights against Holloway. So the Ortega and Zombie, were they real title defenses? Because was he the true champion? Not in my opinion. And then he won the belt against, in my mind, he won the belt against Holloway, lost straight away, trying to be a double champ against Islam. Then he won against Zaire, so he had 1 defense. Then he lost to Islam. Yeah, so I don't think the two are comparable. People just have recency bias, and that's just my opinion. I think Aldo is the GOAT without a doubt. I mean, it's not even close in my opinion. I mean, Aldo didn't have 3 fights against Holloway where it looks like he probably lost 2. The one of them, if anything, to be fair, you could say he won 1, he lost against Holloway, drew against Holloway, and then he whooped Holloway's ass. I'll give him that. But I mean, it's either a win and a draw, or a loss and a draw, or 2 losses and a win against Holloway. I mean, yeah, the third fight makes up for them in a way, but nobody thinks he won those first 2 fights against Holloway hands down. Not at all. For sure, one of them he definitely didn't. Yeah, man, that's just my opinion. So I just want to make this video saying that Aldo's still the GOAT. I mean, he's going to have to get 2, maybe 3 title defenses to I think equal Aldo's legendary status, in my humble opinion. I think he's going to have 1, maybe 2 title defenses, and then it's going to be over. Not that these fighters are better than him, they're not. It's just Father Time. It's going to catch up with him. And the funny thing is, I've got it ranked up here. They've still got Ilya as the champ on the UFC website, but they got Volk as 1, Holloway 2. So I guess everyone's going to bump up one, so which is going to be crazy, because I mean that means Diego will go up to 2 from 3 from a loss, unless they probably will throw Yair above Diego. But the only people now in the top 5. The only person in the top 5 he hasn't beaten is Evloev, and then even if they all move up, Ortega will be 5. So the only person he hasn't beaten in the top 5 will be Evloev, which is actually a good matchup for Volk, because he's the one guy who doesn't bang, and then the next guy, Arnold Allen, he's not that much of a banger. He hasn't fought him, and Lerone Murphy hasn't fought. I think Lerone Murphy might actually be a tough test for Volk, because he's kind of the same technical. He's not the same, but they're both point fighter kind of technical wizards, if that makes sense, and Lerone Murphy's a lot younger and fresher. Aljamain, that's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing. So out of Aljamain, Lerone, Arnold Allen, and Evloev, I'd probably, even though he's ranked least, the furthest back, I'd probably want to see the Aljamain fight. He's a former champion. I think he's coming off a loss though, isn't he? So he needs to get a win. I think he's fought since the Evloev fight. So yeah, man, that's just my opinion. The featherweight division is actually in a kind of an awkward position now, looking at these rankings. So I don't know where the division's going to go next, who's going to fight who, but it's kind of all up in the air, man. Someone gets a really big win in the top 10, they could be next for Volk. So, yeah, man, that's just my thoughts. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.